This is a new topic, moment of inertia in system of particles and rotational motion. In laws of motion, we studied about inertia. So, what is meant by inertia? The inability of a body to change its state of rest or uniform motion along a straight line by itself. So, on its own, no body changes its state of rest or uniform motion on its own. That means, if you take a body here which is traveling with a velocity of 3 meter per second on a level road. Now, if it continues with 3 meter per second, generally this body wants to maintain this velocity continuously at 3 meter per second. But how to increase the velocity of this body if it is moving with 3 meter per second continuously? So, if we apply a force in the direction of the motion, this is the direction of motion. If you apply some external force here, this 3 meter per second will increase to 4 meter per second. So, to increase the velocity from 3 to 4, we need to apply some external force. Similarly, if you apply a force opposite to the motion of this body in this direction, so this is, let me take a small f here. So, in this case, if you apply force in the opposite direction, this velocity may reduce to 2.2 meter per second. What will be? Maybe 2.2 or 2.8 or 1.9, what may be, but less than 3. So, to increase the velocity, I need to apply force in the direction of motion. To decrease the velocity, I have to apply force in the opposite direction of motion. So, without applying this external force, either in the direction of motion or opposite direction of motion, we cannot change this one. But in general, if you keep a body here and if you push it, it moves with 3 meter per second. After traveling some distance, it comes to rest. Why it is coming to rest? Because there is a force which is acting opposite to the motion of that body. That opposing force is a frictional force. Due to friction, velocity decreases from 3 meter per second to 2 meter per second, 1.5 meter per second, 0.8 meter per second, and finally it comes to 0 meter per second. It will be stopped after traveling some distance. This is because of the friction between this body and the road. But if we apply force continuously on this body, then this may increase to 4, 5.6, 8.9 due to the applied force in the direction of motion. Without applying this force, it is impossible for this body to increase its velocity or to decrease its velocity. It has to maintain this velocity. So, that means on its own, it cannot change its state of rest or it cannot change its uniform motion. So, this is the inability of the body. So, this is called inherent property. Inherent property. So, what is this inherent property? Inherent means internal property. So, the body itself has that property. Now, you see this one, this is a red color marker. So, this is a plastic cap. So, this cap got this color because it is painted in red with red color. So, this red color is not its inherent property. It may be a white color plastic cap. So, it is painted with red color. So, this is not inherent property. But if you take this one, the inertia is a inherent property. So, this is the inability. Now, similarly, if you take a body of mass m which is moving with some velocity, let us say it is at rest first, because I have to discuss this case also. Previously, it was moving with uniform velocity. Now, let us say it is at rest. How to change the state of rest? By itself, it cannot change its state of rest on its own. Compulsory, we need to apply some force. Let us the force applied on this one is F. And due to this application of force, the body comes to motion. So, the state of rest changes to motion. So, state of motion. So, in this case, let us say it is rest means the initial velocity was 0, now the velocity is v. So for this velocity to increase from 0 to t, let us say a small interval of time dt was there. So what is the acceleration produced here? This is v minus v naught, which v naught is equal to 0 by delta t. So this is the acceleration. So how to find this acceleration? To find out the acceleration, we have a is equal to f by m. Now, if you apply small force, if f is small, then we know that the acceleration will be small because mass is a constant value. Mass of this body is constant. If you apply big force, capital F here, very big F, big force, then the acceleration produced in this one will be a, which is equal to very big value by m. Once again, m is small. If f is big, acceleration will be big. If f is small, the acceleration will be small. That means the mass of the body will not change, but acceleration is changing. The acceleration depends on force. This is the meaning of the Newton's second law of motion. The rate of change in velocity, that is nothing but acceleration, multiplied with the mass, that is a rate of change of momentum. This is a mass into change in velocity by time. This is called a rate of change of momentum, directly proportional to force. This is Newton's second law. Already we discussed this in Newton's laws of motion. Now here, to give more acceleration, I need to apply more force. That is very simple concept here. So similarly, if the body is at rest, to increase its velocity from 0 to some value, I need to apply some force. From 0 to some bigger v, I need to apply a bigger force here. So the change in velocity, that is acceleration, depends upon the force. Very simple equation. But here we know that acceleration directly proportional to force. The acceleration is equal to some f by k. This k is called mass. This is the measure of inertia. Now, if you take this body and a very big body here, this is another body here, whose mass is capital M. If you apply same force on this one as well as on this one, let us say this force is F1, this force is also F1, which will get more acceleration? Which body gains more acceleration here? Very simple question here. The forces acting on these two bodies is same, which is equal to F1 and F1 only, but the masses are different. So what are the accelerations produced in these two bodies? We know that the smaller body is experiencing this force. The acceleration produced in this case is F1 by m. The acceleration produced in the second case is F1 by capital M. As mass is more here, this A2 will be less. So we can say A1 greater than A2. So which is getting more acceleration here? The first body is getting more acceleration. Previously both were at rest. This was at rest, this was at rest. So both bodies were at rest. Which body is going to get more acceleration? We know that the body having less mass will get more acceleration. So what is inertia? Inertia is inability to change its state. But here it is changing its state very easily. So the body having less mass will have less inertia. Body having less mass will get less inertia. Why? Because it is getting more acceleration. So what is the measure of inertia? The measure of inertia is nothing but mass. Mass is the measure of inertia. Bodies having less mass will have less inertia. Bodies having more mass will have more inertia. That means they will not change their velocity that much easily. Why? Because here acceleration is less, that is change in velocity is less. So that means they are not ready to change their state of rest. That's why this body is said to have more inertia in this case. So mass is the measure of inertia in translatory motion. Similarly, there must be some analog to this inertia in rotational motion. So what is that analog of inertia, or in place of inertia we can write mass in case of rotational motion. That motion, that analog should be equal to, must be the moment of inertia. If I want to lift this ink bottle, so here, if you keep the ink bottle here, I can lift this very easily. Why? Because the mass of this ink bottle is less. Similarly, if you take a small piece of paper here, I am taking a small piece of paper. Now, if you keep it here, generally this paper will not change its position by itself. But for a small applied force, little amount of force can change the state of this one. See, now the position has changed. That means bodies having less mass can change their state very easily by the application of small amount of force. Now, if you take this one, it is vibrating, but it is not falling down. I am applying the similar force here. I am blowing the same amount of air here, but this body is not moving. Now, similarly, if you take this duster, which is having more mass than this ink bottle, now I can lift this very easily, and if you apply force, it is not at all vibrating. Previously, the ink bottle was shaking little bit, but this duster is not at all shaking for the same amount of force here. That means it has more inertia than the ink bottle, more inertia than the paper. Now, if you take this this one, this is a UPS. Here, if I want to lift it, then I have to do more work here. That means it is not that much easy to lift this one. That means this body do not want to change its state of rest. Now it is at rest. Now when I am lifting this, that means it is in motion. So I am trying to change the motion of this body, but we can see, we can feel the pain in our hand while lifting this one because of the more mass. It is not possible. It is possible, but not that much easy to lift this one when compared to the other bodies like that piece of paper or that ink bottle or that duster. That means if mass of the body is more, those bodies will not try to change their state of rest or uniform motion. Now, similar to this one, if you take our fan, when it is rotating, so these are all translatory motion examples. Now, if you take our fan, which is rotating about its own axis. Now, if you want to stop it, now if you keep your hand there, in between the blades will cut your fingers. But how to stop it? Then you have to take one stick. If you take a stick also, if you keep the stick between the blades also, and the stick will rotate with the blades generally. But if you apply large force, then only the fan can be stopped with the help of the stick. But one more method is there. If you take two sticks and if you keep it in two different positions, these two will apply equal, opposite, parallel, non-collinear forces on the blades, and these two can stop the fan easily when compared to the single stick. So that's why in linear motion we are discussing only about a single force, but in rotational motion we have to use two equal, opposite, parallel, non-collinear forces, that we call it as a couple of forces. Now, that means the analog of mass in case of translatory motion is called moment of inertia. So, what is this moment of inertia? With our knowledge, what we can say, the angular momentum of a body is equal r bar cross p bar. Similarly, the torque acting on a body is given by r bar cross f bar. Similarly, the moment of inertia, we are denoting this with the letter I. This is given by moment of, remember these two are the vector quantities, but this is a scalar quantity. So I am not going to use this cross product. I am going to multiply directly r into, this is moment of inertia, this is a moment of mass. So we have learned this moment of force is given by the perpendicular distance into force. So if you are finding moment of force, multiply force with r. Similarly, what is meant by moment of mass? This is given by mass into that perpendicular distance. Here this is the moment of mass. But what is moment of inertia? This is moment of mass. So please remember this one. Moment of inertia is moment of So this is moment of inertia. So very simple equation. This is a scalar quantity which is given by moment of mass. If you multiply these two, you will get m into r square. So this is the moment of inertia expression. Now, whenever there is a new physical quantity, we have to find the SI unit and the dimension formula for this one. So what is the SI unit of moment of inertia? So this mass is measured in kgs and the distance is measured in meter square. Similarly, the dimension formula is given by mass m and the distance is L square. So this is ml square. But in general, we have to write this in terms of mass, length and time, because those three are the fundamental physical quantities. In some books, they are giving this as ml square t power 0. In competitive exam, they may give the dimensions of time in moment of inertia. The dimensions means the powers raised to this one, this one. So the dimensions of time of moment of inertia is 0. Please remember this one. Similarly, what are the dimensions of mass and length for moment of inertia? So dimensions are 1, 2, because this is m power 1, this is L power 2. So these are dimensions. Sometimes they may ask, what are the dimensions of mass, length and time in moment of inertia? Then the answer will be 1, 2, 0, first option. Second option 2, 1, 0. Third option 0, 1, 2. Fourth option 1, 2, 1. Like this they may give. So you have to tick 1, 2, 0 because the powers are known as dimensions. Now, what is this moment of inertia? We know that inertia is the inability of a body to change its state of rest or uniform motion along a straight line only. But this is for rotational motion. So how to define moment of inertia? Now this is also the inability of a body to change its state of rotational motion by itself. So the definition of moment of inertia, this moment of inertia is given by the inability of a body to change its state of rest or rotational motion, uniform rotational motion you can write, or rotational motion by itself. That means on its own, even the body which is rotating will not try to change its state of rest or uniform rotational motion. Now in case of fan, when the fan is rotating with a constant angular velocity, so fan is rotating with a constant angular velocity, so these are the blades. Let us say the velocity of this one is omega, this is omega, so it is rotating with a constant angular velocity. In this case, when this omega will change, the omega can be changed. That means either to increase this one or to decrease this one. To increase this one, just like in translative motion, to increase the linear velocity, we have to apply force in the direction of motion. Here also to increase the angular velocity, we have to apply torque in the direction of rotational motion. Let us say it is rotating in this direction. If you apply torque on the fan in this direction, then apply torque means of applying force here, torque will act along the axis of rotation. So we have to apply torque in the direction of angular velocity. But to decrease this one, to decrease omega or to stop this rotational motion, we have to apply torque in opposite direction. So this is in same direction and this is in opposite direction. Already when it is rotating, it will have some torque. If you apply some external torque in the direction of the actual torque, same direction, this omega will increase in the same direction. But in opposite direction, if you apply the torque, then the omega will be decreased. So what is the definition of moment of inertia? The inability once again of a body to change its state of rest or that uniform rotational motion by itself is called moment of inertia. And this is given by I is equal to mr square. And remember, I is not a vector like angular momentum and torque. This is a complete scalar quantity. Moment of inertia can also be defined as the This is also inherent characteristic of a rotating body, due to which it cannot change its condition. It cannot change its condition by its own of that rotational motion and oppose any torque acting on it. Now, in case of a linear motion, translator motion, let us say this body is at rest. By applying 5 Newton's force, this body is not changing. So, what is the meaning of this one? This body of mass m is opposing the force acting on it. Due to this 5 Newton's force, body is not moving. The meaning of this one is, this body is opposing this force. Now, if you increase this to 15 Newtons, then also let us say body is at rest. Means the frictional force between this body and this surface is opposing this 15 Newtons. Now, if the force is 150 Newtons, let us say body is just moving. That means up to 149 Newtons force, the body is not moving. So, that means body has the tendency to oppose this force up to 149. Similarly, in rotational motion, body opposes any amount of torque acting on this one. So, this is also called moment of inertia. In case of this rolling motion or rotatory motion, let us say this is a road with bumps here, or we can call it as speed breakers. So, these are the speed breakers on a road. On a level road, let us say one cycle is moving here. This is the cycle tire. This is one more cycle tire, and this is the pedal. This is the handle. So, this is the setup that is given here. So, this is a cycle. Now, just behind this cycle, we have a car whose tires are smaller than the cycle. So, this is a car, this is a bicycle, and just behind this one, let me take one truck. So, tires are bigger than this one. So, this is a truck. Now, let us say all are moving on the same road. Here, a small kid is riding this. Small kid means a small boy of around 15 years age or 12 years age. So, when this boy is riding this bicycle, here what happens? While this tire comes in contact with this speed breaker, so this is the axle of the cycle, and as the cycle is tire is rotating in this direction, so this is the direction of motion here. Friction will be opposite to this one. So, friction will pull this one upwards. Friction may increase the speed also here. Now, due to this, the axle will apply an equal and opposite force in this direction. These two forces are equal and opposite and always parallel to each other, equal in magnitude, produce a couple. So, due to this, this will rotate in this direction. That means this cycle. But here what is he going to do? He is going to move along this path. So, here this will apply some force in this direction. This speed breaker will apply some force on the tire. For this small kid, he has to apply a lot of force on the pedal to create that torque. To move the vehicle, he is applying some torque. He is producing some torque by pedaling the cycle. At the same time, an opposite torque is acting on this one, which is opposing the rotatory motion of this cycle tire on this speed breaker. So, if the force applied by the speed breaker, here we should call it as a torque applied by the speed breaker, is greater than the torque produced by this person while pedaling, then he cannot climb the speed breaker. You can see small kids using small cycles, they cannot move or they cannot climb the inclined plane. Why? Because of this motion only. Because they have to create a lot of torque there, not of force. This is not a force because they are using two legs. They are applying force in the opposite direction. So, they are creating torque there. So, to move the cycle or the rotational motion will be given to the tire by applying torque on the pedals. But whereas in case of a car can move on these bumps or these speed breakers very easily because the torque created by the car engine is powerful or more than this torque produced by this boy while moving on the speed breaker. Then what about the truck? Especially the multi-axial trucks, that means trucks having more number of tires. So, they can create a large torque and the torque produced by these speed breakers in the opposite direction will be very small when compared to the torque produced by these engines. So, this is how a small kid cannot climb the speed breakers that much easily. A car can move on the bumpers very easily, and a truck, the passengers inside the truck will not feel that they are traveling on the speed breakers. Why? Because the torque produced by this one is more when compared to the torque produced, opposite torque produced by this one. Here, any opposition torque is acting, this truck will not care that opposite torque here. That means this truck has more inertia. Consider a body here, irregular shaped body but a rigid body here. Now, let us, it is rotating about this axis in this direction. So, let me consider one point somewhere here. This is one particle. So, let the mass of this particle is mi, that is ith particle. So, this particle is the ith particle because this body has so many number of particles. So, I am denoting all other points particles now. These are the different particles here, but in these particles I am going to consider only one particle, which is ith particle. So, I am going to consider this ith particle just like nth particle. Now, in this case, as the body is rotating in this direction, this particle also move in the same direction. If the total angular velocity of this body is omega, the angular velocity of this ith particle is also omega, and the distance of this particle from the axis of rotation, let us say this is Ri. What is the kinetic energy of that particle? So, Ke of ith particle is given by, we have this formula half m omega square, half m v square, that is half into mass of that particle mi, velocity of that particle, that is linear velocity vi whole square. So, this can be written as half into mi into, what is the relation between v and omega? We know that v is equal to r omega. So, vi is equal to ri omega I. So, what I am going to write in place of v, ri omega I whole square. Now, if you expand this one, this you will get half into mi, half into mi into, this will become ri square omega square I. Remember, omega for any particle is constant here. If you do not only the ith particle, if you take the first particle, let us say this will rotate with the angular velocity omega in a particular circular path, and this particle will rotate in a second circular path. This particle will rotate in this one. This particle, all these particles will rotate around this fixed point only with the same angular velocity. Now, in this, what is constant? You can bring this one outside. So, now I am going to write omega I square into. So, what are the remaining terms now? The remaining terms are half into mi into ri square. This is the kinetic energy of a body in rotational motion. Why? Because we are considering the angular velocity here. So, we have taken the same formula of is equal to mr v square for translated motion only, but we convert this into angular velocity, the linear velocity converted to angular velocity. So, this is Ke rotational. That means, kinetic energy of a particle in rotational motion. This is Ke of a particle in rotational motion. How to find the kinetic energy of the entire body in rotational motion. To find out the total kinetic energy of this one, so I am going to find total KE of the system of particles, or simply we call it as body of the body is given by. Here I am using small ke. So for this one I am going to use a capital KE. So to show the difference I am using this capital KE rotational. So how to get the capital KE? What I have to do? As kinetic energy is a scalar, we can add all these quantities. If it is a vector, we have to use a parallelogram law of vector distribution or cosine rule. But here it is not required. Kinetic energy is a scalar. For this particle, the kinetic energy is omega square half mi ri square. So what is the kinetic energy of the first particle? So Ke1 is equal half m1 r1 square omega 1 square. What is Ke2? Half m2 r2 square omega 2 square. So what is Ki? That already we found here. Half mi Ri square omega I square. And finally what is Ken? Half mn Rn square omega n square. These are the different kinetic energies here. Now while finding this one, we have to add all these kinetic energies of each and every particle, just add them. So I am going to add this one here. The first particle half m1 r1 square omega square. Second one half m2 r2 square omega 2 square, and so on. Half mn Rn square omega n square. In this half is constant, you can bring it out. Next, omega is constant for each and every particle. The omega never changes. So you can bring half and omega constant. So I am going to write half into omega square is constant. What are the other terms? They are m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus and so on mn rn square. So this is the sum of the mass of each particle and the square of the distance between that particle from the axis of rotation. So I am going to write this one, the total kinetic energy of the body here. Total kinetic energy of the body in a rotational motion is given by half omega square. Instead of this I can write sigma mi ri square with I starts from 1 to n, because this is m1 1 2 2 3 3 up to n. So now you can see this one in kinetic energy for translatory motion. If the body is moving along a straight line, our formula half mv square, that is half into mass into square of velocity, that is square of linear velocity. This is half into square of angular velocity into some quantity. So what is this quantity? If you compare this and this, here we have half, here we have half. Here we have square of the linear velocity, here we have square of the angular velocity. For translatory motion we have mass, for rotational motion we have some quantity, and this particular quantity is called moment of inertia, denoted with the letter I. So this is half omega square into, this is known as sum of the product of the mass of each particle and square of the distance between that particle to the axis of rotation is called, I can write sigma m, that is capital M into some constant r square. Let me come later first, but this is called, we are denoting this as I, where I is called moment of inertia. So the moment of inertia of the entire body is the sum of the moment of inertia of each and every particle in that body. So the final expression is moment of inertia I is equal sigma mr square from I1 to n. So which already we discussed as mass into square of the distance